Hey there, welcome to Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. Let's have a garden tour and talk about some gardening topics that are pertinent in this winter season. Well, here's my winter garden, but it doesn't feel like winter. In fact, it's hot. Not summer hot, but I've got sweat on my forehead. It's warm. The weather people say that this has been a record December in Zone 9A on the Texas coast. We have had 80 degrees, 85 degree days for a prolonged period of time, and that has implications for my winter garden. In fact, it's brought some challenges. Let's walk through the garden and I'll talk about those challenges, and I'll also talk about some things I didn't really know about Zone 9A here on the Texas coast. Yeah, what you see right here is pretty much my entire garden. Bed 3, bed 2, bed 1, the fig deck over there where I keep my trees, the grape vineyard here, the little micro vineyard, my in-ground apple trees over there on the lawn, my citrus, and containers spread around where I need to grow other things. If you'd like to know how to grow a small backyard garden like this, I encourage you to subscribe and learn with me. Starting here with my little raised bed, the garlic. Look how big this is. It's a foot tall, 18 inches tall in some cases. This garlic really shouldn't be growing like this. It should be kind of deadening off with the cold weather and going to sleep for the winter, but it's so warm this garlic is just putting on all kinds of growth. It won't matter in the end. It will die off when we get some actual real winter, which I anticipate is coming in January and early February. But yeah, it's crazy. And look at this dill. This dill growing here is ready to be harvested and dried and used fresh. It's got some huge chunky stalks in there, man. That's what I like to see. That's the benefit of having a warm winter, is it's very mild and you can grow lots of herbs. And if you're growing anything for leafiness, leafy greens, then it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. So this bed is doing well, and I'm pleased with it. I'm real pleased with my carrots. Carrots are growing well. In the midst of this carrot patch, tons of this chickweed. This chickweed, you can eat it. I don't necessarily like to eat it. It's it's got a lot of water content. It's almost like a salad, but when you eat it, you want to make sure you clean it. There's a Klingon there. Yeah, but the carrots, they'll overcome. I come in here and pull out some of this chickweed as I can, but it's hard to differentiate sometimes from the carrots. But they'll overcome and they'll grow fine in here. They are starting to put on some root, so we should have a good harvest of carrots come the spring. These will grow through the winter just fine, even if we get frost or snow. And yeah, I'm seeing all kinds of little snail type things in here. So always wash your produce really well. Yeah, this chickweed though, it's the season for chickweed. Makes good compost. So that's the carrots. This bed has been a success overall. Here's the problem plant. This one right here, this is a cauliflower, and you can see it's starting to put on a little head in there. A little floret in there is starting to peek through. You can see how these leaves stand straight up. That's a self-blanching type. You don't have to tie it up. If you remember, this is the plant that had the aphid attack, and that's why it's stunted. These two plants right here were covered in aphids, and you can see the remaining damage on those leaves, all those yellow marks. But they're still growing, and they're still putting on, and we're starting to see some production of some cauliflower down in there. So I'm actually surprised that we had success with these two plants. But yeah, it's working. Right here we got some more. You can see this one's more healthy because it was not attacked by aphids, so the cauliflower is forming real nicely in there. Here's a problem though. This one's a broccoli, and you can see we've got a nice big broccoli head, but because it's been so unseasonably warm, that broccoli will have to be harvested right now, because the little flowers, you can start to see barely some yellow in there. And when you start seeing that yellow or a color coming through, all those little lumps that make up the broccoli head, well, they're flowers and they're about to open up. So that's because it's unseasonably warm. That wants to bolt and go to seed. So I'm going to have to harvest that. Smaller than I want it, but hey, some broccoli is better than no broccoli, right? And broccoli can sometimes give you a second production run, especially in this warm weather. So I'll cut those out and leave them there. Cabbages are starting to head up. You can see that starting to head up now. That's good. Always like to have some cabbage. Here's another broccoli. Here's what I mean. You can start to see the flowers in there. And we're going to have to harvest this too, unfortunately. This was another plant that was attacked by aphids. You can see all the collateral damage. And we're going to have to remove some of those leaves. We'll do that when we harvest. Alright, so what we're going to do is come in here and snip this thing off, leaving as many of the leaves behind that we can. There. There's our broccoli. Starting to get those yellow flowers coming out, so yeah, it's time to eat it. What we'll do is leave this behind, and hopefully it'll put up another broccoli head. Let's go harvest the other one too. Not very big. Yeah, not very big, but hey, it's something to eat. Phoebe likes broccoli. Trying to eat this. No, that's about, the two of these together is about what you might get at the store from a small broccoli package. So that's enough to eat. But yeah, this long bed here has been performing well, even with those heat challenges. Speaking of the heat and what it produces in our plants want to bolt and make seed. And you can see the bees are really loving this Chinese broccoli. We harvested some the other day, but I think at this point it's too far gone to actually be good eating because it's bolted. And because it's bolted, the stems up in there have they're starting to get hard and fiber up so they can support all the seed pods. What I'm going to do, you can see here, there's seed pods coming in. I'm going to let these go to seed and harvest some seeds from this Chinese broccoli because I really liked it. It was really delicious. In fact, if you want to know how to grow this and eat it, check my previous video. Right now it's bee food, and those bees are helping make some seeds. Wonderful. Further in this garden, I have some tat soy, which is an Asian green, and you can see that the snails and slugs have really gone to town on this stuff. We have sprayed with BT, but all this is ready to eat, harvestable. You can see the nice juicy stems there, and if you don't mind the snail holes, it's perfectly good to eat. So tat soy, I've got a couple rows of it in there, and man, look how green that is. This is great, a great green, wonderful green. Looks like we've got some more caterpillar damage too. We might have to spray with BT. Right here are my daikon radishes. I've got two varieties. I've got one here and one here, and they are bulking up now. You can see down there that we've got some radishes, and that's encouraging. This is an icicle shaped radish. This one over here is more of the oblong style. You can see it down in there, starting to bulk up. These are pretty large radishes, and I can't wait to harvest some of these. They're growing real nice. Nice dense patch. Check out the celery. It's getting to be about the size where we need to start blanching our celery. That means we're going to wrap this up and bunch these stalks up, gather them up like that and wrap them in newspaper so that this part of the stalk will be blanched. It'll be whiter. That takes away some of the bitterness that's found in this celery. But this is growing well beyond how good I thought it would. This stuff is growing superbly. Always weed as you go. You can use this green as it is and make celery powder out of it, or you can get the stalks nice and white or light green by blanching. Collard greens are loving the warm weather. It's time to start harvesting some of these collard greens. And yeah, they were sown directly as seeds and took a while to come up, but when they did, they started growing, looking good. Those will get real big if we let them. All right, so that's the overview of this bed, and I'm real happy. What are you doing, huh? What are you sniffing after? Don't go in the garden. Hey, you're going to ignore me, I see. Corgis are a lot like cats in some ways. They tend to ignore you if they don't like what you're saying to them. And yeah, Phoebe's like that. Phoebe, are you ignoring me? Huh? Don't go in the garden. Alright, bed number 3. We've got some giant radishes, Japanese style, growing there. And well, that was kind of an afterthought. It's a novelty radish. It's supposed to get really big, but they're not even bulking up in the roots just yet. So yeah, we'll see. Over here we've got rutabagas. Rutabagas are looking good. Not quite bulking up yet either, but you can see we've got lots of critters in the garden that really like this rutabaga and all of these leafy greens. We're probably going to have to spray something here. We have a cold front coming through, and it will get pretty chilly on New Year's Day. I wonder if that'll take care of some of these caterpillars. I'd rather nature take care of them than BT, which, well, BT is part of nature. It's a bacterial spray. But I'd rather the cold snap do it than have to spray these. Although I will spray them if I need to. The blossoms on the peas are looking good. That's encouraging. And yeah, they're all standing up straight, even though that's a real janky trellis system, but it worked. You can see that the plants are hanging on and able to stand up tall. Yeah, that's great. Right here we got some kohlrabi. Kohlrabi's looking healthy. Things are eating kohlrabi down here in the garden too, so yeah. I've never grown this before, but it looks like it's starting to swell in this area where we expect to get the bulb. So that's encouraging. Yeah, garden bed 3, producing food for me at the end of December. Strawberry checkup. The ones in this pot are doing really well. They look real healthy, right next to the electric daisies, the toothache plant. Over here, though, I've got some discoloration on some of these leaves, and I don't know. I've never grown strawberries. There's some healthy stuff here. There's some runners that are rooting along the way. But those colored leaves, I don't know what that's about. Maybe you know. Maybe you can tell me. All this stuff here is kelp meal that got sprinkled around. So it was colored like this before I put the kelp meal in. But I do see roots. So there's some growth in here. Maybe the soil just needs replenishment. I don't know. What's that about? Let's go look at the other strawberries. Here are my other strawberries, and they're actually producing flowers. And yeah, I don't know if I'll get any strawberries out of that. It seems like the wrong time of year, but it's growing. And the ant bed that was in here, well, fire ants were in here, and I finally had to get out the Amdro, which I don't like to use, but it's the only thing that really kills fire ants that does not affect the plants. My thornless blackberry, doing great. Looks like maybe shutting down some growth for the year here and there, dropping a few leaves, but yeah, that's going to be good. Looking forward to that. The apple trees, they're supposed to go dormant and drop all their leaves, but we have not had the temperatures to give them the cue to go dormant. And what I've learned from Cuffle Creek Nursery is that when you're growing apples in the subtropical area, sometimes you have to induce dormancy by stripping leaves. It's not quite time to strip the leaves, although I have stripped some down here. What we're going to do next with these trees coming in the early spring, when this tree is pretty dormant, as dormant as we can get it, is we're going to lop it off right about here, and we're going to notch above the buds, just a little notch above the buds where we want our main branches to come from. And that will trick those buds to thinking it's the top of the tree, and that apical dominance will push out a branch from these buds, and we'll begin shaping our tree for backyard orchard culture and to keep a small apple tree. So we've got a nice trunk to deal with here on each of these. This is the best one here, and all these buds will be able to select the ones we want to grow. Yeah, looking forward to this. Got to get some mulch down in there. They're starting to get kind of weedy. Here's something that I've never seen before. I have ripe figs, huge ripe figs in the middle of December. My fig trees are so confused. They don't know what's going on, and they're still ripening fruit. They're supposed to be dormant. Some of them are, and they're supposed to be dormant so I can prune them. They needed pruning. They skipped this year's pruning because of the freeze, And I was waiting to see, like on this one, if it was really dead or if it would grow back. This one is actually not dead at all. But you can see it's kind of ugly now. It skipped its pruning. And yeah, need these trees to go to sleep. This was labeled a Conandria yellow fig, but obviously it's not yellow, so I think I mislabeled it somehow and don't really know what it is. But I know that these are delicious figs. Now this one's not quite ripe enough to eat, but I wanted to show you. A fig is just a flower that is inside out. You can see there's literally pollen in here, and bugs will enter that hole. Phoebe wants to eat the fig. There's literally pollen in here that the bugs will come in and spread around, and so that's like an inverted flower. It's like if you took it this way and opened it up, that's how a normal flower is, but this one's encased inside, and the fruit is the flower. So, check this out. You want some fig? There you go. Not quite ripe, is it? Gonna burn your mouth. Chonky. There you go. Phoebe loves figs. In fact, I've caught Phoebe eating figs off of my tree. You like figs? Yeah, fig eating dog. Did you steal another fig?
She stole a pepper too.
Are you a fig bandit?
She was dragging her head on the ground.
You ate a pepper? Serves you right. That's what you get. Fig
Don't
bandit.
steal.
Vegetable bandit. Phoebe Sharona. Fig bandit. You've probably seen my little herb bed many times, and it hasn't changed much. If you follow my channel at all, this is familiar to you. I've got oregano, got a big giant bunch of very healthy rosemary, got some spring onions from last spring that came up, got some thyme and some marjoram, and those are my backup plants that aren't looking so well, but that's where they've stayed. I planted some of that Chinese celery right in here. We broadcast it, and I can see that it's starting to come up. So we've got little seedlings emerging here, so that's encouraging. It's good to see. And the final bit, I've got my cilantro, which with this warm weather, I'm sure this is going to bolt too, so we should probably harvest this and dry it. And I've got my parsley over here. It's all looking healthy. This is a nice little herb pot, but it's a good bit of cilantro. Okay, well, we've harvested some broccoli. Got a lot of other things we could harvest. Some dill. Could get those herbs in and dry them, and probably wise to do that. But you know what? I have learned that in Zone 9A on the Texas coast, you can grow year-round. Someone asked me the other day on the comment section of my last video how long I wait before I plant again after I clear a bed and harvest a garden. You know, how long do I let it lay? And the answer to that is not at all. I grow year-round if I can. And so all I'll do is amend my bed with a layer of compost if I believe the soil is depleted by having watched the previous crop. If it was a heavy feeding crop like cabbages or something, I'll go ahead and put some organic fertilizer in there, sprinkle it about if I need to. But normally I just plant right after something comes out. There are 3 growing seasons that I practice here in Zone 9A on the Texas coast. I practice from March the 1st is our average last frost date, and I go through into maybe June, and that brings me to the summer garden. Then the summer crops go in June and finish up about October 1st, the first week of October. And then I grow from October all the way through to March 1st again. That's my winter garden. Some people have said you can grow 4 different crops or 4 different garden seasons in Houston area, Zone 9A on the Texas coast. And they will take like December to March to be a 4th season. The problem is lots of things grow beyond their season, right? You don't just rip something out because the date comes where your spring garden is supposed to be done. Peppers, for example, eggplant, okra, even some tomatoes will grow well into the summer garden. And so the way I like to practice it is those things that come out of my garden that were spring crops, like cucumbers is a good example. By the time June or mid-June usually comes around, the cucumbers are done. They've succumbed to diseases and to powdery mildew, and I've had a huge harvest already. So I'll take those out, and that's where I'll put my summer crops, like cowpeas, okra, eggplant, things like that. So you can overlap those seasons. But you can always grow something in your garden in Zone 9A on the Texas coast. I encourage you to try it. This is it's almost New Year's Day, and I've got a wonderful garden growing. It's 83 degrees out here right now. That's crazy. Now, some years you're going to fail because we're going to have freezes like last year. But even last year, I had a beautiful, wonderful winter garden and got lots of food out of it before the freeze came. And even though the freeze swept through and killed everything in the garden, well, I still had, it was still a wonderful garden. So you can grow year round. Some years the freeze will knock out your plants. That's true. There are things that you can do about it. The problem is with growing during the winter up in the northern regions as well, it's frozen in the ground freezes, or the freeze lingers for an extended period of time. Normally, if we get a freeze in our area, it only drops below freezing for a few hours in the night. You might get some ice and some frost, but it's gone by 10 a.m. or so. It's very light. Your plants can generally, all these winter crops can handle that. We had snow a few years ago that covered my cabbages and carrots, and well, they pulled right on through because they're tolerant of all that. It's when you get into a deep freeze situation that your plants are going to suffer, and we don't really get that much. A deep freeze around here, maybe once every 10 years. And then last year was like a 100-year event. You don't get that very often. So grow all the time. You can produce food year-round in Zone 9A, and a lot of gardeners in my area don't know that. They're surprised that we're growing things in the middle of December. They're surprised that we're doing a garden tour almost on New Year's Eve and that there's anything to look at. But it's true. Try growing. Try growing year-round. If you're in an area where you can grow year-round, try it. I know that you can grow year-round into Zone 8, probably in Zone 7 if you've got some covers or protection. Yeah, you can grow year-round around here, and I encourage you to give it a shot. Okay, so it's almost time to start planning our spring garden. It's almost time to start gridding out where we're going to put things and working out our crop rotation. And that may sound hard, but it's actually really simple. If you're a new gardener, relatively new, or you want to kind of up your gardening game, if you've never gardened at all but would like to start, please subscribe to our channel, hit the bell. You'll be notified when we upload videos. And what we're going to do is go through gardening from square one like we do every single year. We're going to start our seeds, we're going to show it. We're going to up pot, we're going to show that. We're going to show how to plant out things like onion starts and sweet potato slips and how to grow things from seed. And we're even going to try maybe some winter sowing. That's a method where you use milk jugs and you start your seeds outside so you don't even have to have lights and grow lights or anything like that. And I'm going to try that, I think, this year. We're also going to take a tour of a garden that's just down that way. One of my friends, I discovered her on YouTube and discovered that I've got a neighbor who's got a wonderful, very exotic garden. And as soon as I can get the time to go over there, she's offered to give me a tour. It is an African garden. It's got some wonderful plants in it that I've never even seen before. And yeah, well, we're eager to get together. I want to show you what you can grow here in the subtropics, even in the dead of winter. She's growing some crazy, some delicious looking food and some crazy amounts of it. And her garden is very lush. So we're going to go take a look at her garden very soon. So that's what's coming up on Black Gumbo. We're starting the spring. In about 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to start seeds indoors and show you how to do all that. If you need seeds, go to seedsforgenerations.com. Use the link below and you'll support our channel. And I vouch for their family-run business, wonderful seeds. A lot of these seeds are from Seeds for Generations. In fact, those Rutabagas and those kohlrabi are from Jason over there at Seeds for Generations. So give them a shot. Hey, thanks for joining me today on Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. Happy New Year to you. I hope 2022 is uneventful in the right way of speaking about uneventful. I hope you have a wonderful New Year. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. You see that guy right there? That's a brown anole. That is an invasive species, but you know, they're here for good. Go away, little guy.